Welcome, everyone. Welcome. This is Never Gonna Do That, where creativity is the art form and frightening people is the name of the game. We're a family-owned business founded on wholesome values, rooted in America's heartland. Our team is delighted that you signed up for our facility tour. We promise you'll feel firsthand the fear, shock, and abject terror that epitomize the NGDT experience. I will be your guide on this gruesome inspection, and today I'm accompanied by my assistant Garrett and special guest, Tara, a mad scientist of international regard, who is here to research the limits of the human mind. Now, please line up and ready yourselves. At my signal, you'll step to the right and enter through the door marked Processing.
So Sarah, what did you have to say?
Today, we're gonna keep with the Halloween spooky, kooky theme and get into some mad scientist shit and talk a little bit about something that we'd like to call the Halloween machine. The idea of mad inventions that could go terribly wrong or terribly good if you're trying to have things go terribly wrong.
Changes everything.
Yes. Again, it's all about the way you spin the story.
We're designing things to build to destroy childhood.
I've always enjoyed making children cry.
If anybody's heard the podcast before, they already know.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I took a kid down on the L train stairs going home one night. I had makeup on at Halloween time of some rotting face thing. And this child in like a little Disney costume was like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And I just gave her a good long stare. And I was like, this is going to toughen that kid up. No helicopter parents for her. She's going to be okay. So I think it's really about shaping the youth of America, creating scary experiences, haunted houses, trick-or-treating situations, machines, using technology to create something that goes bump in the night to terrify people and traumatize them for all time.
Yeah, I find every year at Halloween, there is inevitably a crier over the most innocuous part of the Halloween decorations, the stuff you never saw coming, not even intentionally terrifying things, because kids are such weirdos that they're afraid of tinfoil, and you just can't predict it, which is even more delightful. It's like the usability of your Halloween decorations going wildly askew from your expectations.
It's like that one year that you get super lazy and you just leave a skeleton on a chair with a bowl of candy, and some kid is just going to start crying and won't get near it. And it's like, dude, you're 12 years old.
It reminds me of Mom at home.
Actually, 12-year-olds are still doing that. I'm not afraid of anything. Watch me be indifferent to this. We did a Halloween decoration diorama a couple of years ago of haunted medical tents. And I remember these 10 to 13-year-old kids, and they come barreling down the sidewalk. Oh, yeah, this house. Oh, it's always so scary. And you can see them in their eyes. There's fear in their eyes, but they're trying to be like, I don't care about this.
Yeah, creating an experience with the imagination of kids or normal things not being what they seem, playing with camouflage, or you think the expected thing is the skeleton with the bowl of candy and the flashing strobe lights, but it's really something else that you wouldn't even expect.
I feel like you're setting me up.
Maybe.
All right, well, here, I'm just going to jump in. This is an idea that Sarah and I have been talking about for a long time. It's called the Monster Under the Bed Box.
Mm-hmm.
It is a board game. I think we said originally that it was Monopoly, because Monopoly is that one game that everybody has and nobody ever wants to play.
Too much investment.
And nobody actually knows the rules.
Right.
So Monopoly is under the bed. Kids are never going to touch it. But actually, it has sensors and speakers in it so that if the kid gets out of bed, like the kid steps on the ground in the middle of the night, it starts to rumble.
Who's buying this?
If you've got a kid who's not in one of of those cage beds. What are those called?
A crib?
A crib. If they're not in a crib, but they keep getting out of bed, then you put this under there so the kid is sure there's a monster under their bed. And if they get out of the sheets in the middle of the night, that monster is going to start roaring and scaring them. And maybe it could be hooked up to the bed in a way so that it kind of shakes the bed a little bit. You know, every couple weeks, just a little shake.
Oh, this is for parents. You want to keep your kid in bed. Do you feel like your kid's always going to go, oh, I want a glass of water. This will keep them frozen, paralyzed in their sheets. And then it shows two parents and the dad lifts his eyebrows like, you want to do a little monster time? And they're going to go bang and smash or whatever. They turn on the Monopoly box and the kid's crying and screaming in bed and they're fucking away.
You turned it to sex in record time.
Sorry.
Congratulations.
Lifelong sleep issues. I don't know.
So, Tara, I gotta ask, you have ideas for machines and things, and I feel like it started out young for you. And it's only graduated to more diabolical things over time.
Okay, I mean, when I was 5, do you remember those little electric cars you could have when you were a kid that you could ride around the neighborhood and it would go about 2 blocks before the charge totally died?
Power Wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with having one of those, but I knew we were never going to get one. So I tried making one. It took me a month out of paper, and I sat in it, and then I crushed it. So I have been trying to make things my entire life that filled holes. In some ways, Halloween machinery or decor or whatever, I feel like I need to terrify some people. You know, I feel bad about the little kids, but once they hit about 6, I feel like it's fair game, and adults are even more fun to scare. Forget the 4-year-old in bed. I want to figure out how to terrify the 37-year-old.
I feel like that age was very specific.
She's gunning you down.
They kind of have it coming.
If they're in their 40s, it's not as fun. They're in their 20s. No, 37, that's the sweet spot.
Maybe. You know what? I feel like there's some point in your 30s where all of a sudden you begin to see all the terrifying things in the world. Your youthful immortality is gone, and now all of a sudden the possible nightmare scenarios of certain things come to play. And that's where you really need to focus your efforts.
I go to space, alien. I'm thinking of vents and steam. If you had some sort of disinfectant system you had to go through to get candy, but it was set up in a real spooky way. There's the ultraviolet light scan that you go through, and then you get blasted with like some sort of air mist.
Blasting anybody with any sort of mist or even air, just the fact that it's happening is the scariest part.
Yeah.
And it's a realistic fear. It would really be cool to set up some sort of UV cleaning chamber.
You could do like you could have sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's just like a black light.
Yeah. This whole process of being decontaminated, or people in suits.
Hazmat suits.
Yeah, and you can't see their face or something. Maybe you're going up to get the candy and all of a sudden people in hazmat suits run out and start fixing tarp and then pull you in, and all of a sudden you're the toxic contaminator.
Or if you walk up and the tarp just falls down.
Oh, God,
like just,
that would terrify me.
You take a piece of candy and then suddenly it all falls down and then people with the suits just come through. You never saw any of it coming. It just happened.
See, that's where the Halloween terror to me comes in. The less obvious it is, all those horror movies that were really effective at terrifying you, they barely show you anything. There's Zipper-Face Sarah, which is overt and impossible. You can't look away. It's like a train wreck. But then there's the rustle in the bushes, and you don't even get to see what it is. That's a great part. When it comes to, let's say, a tarp that falls on top of you, you just need to have something that rustles on the other side. You don't even have to have something terrifying there. It's just you can't see.
It's that uncertainty, but I'm also thinking the house on the end of the street where somebody spooky lives. There isn't anything maybe even happening at that house. It's just the idea that the windows are always dark, and now I'm thinking of the Burbs. The basement lights all of a sudden like flash what's happening down there, and then it just goes off, and then there's nothing else for days.
The shroud of mystery.
If there's just something unexpected, I love the idea of a tarp falling. You don't know if it was supposed to happen or if really there was candy. That's scary. Going back to the idea of some kind of decontaminant, you had been describing something that you're trying to devise for this Halloween.
Yeah, just to play off an idea I had a couple years ago that I was calling the Halloween box.
Yeah.
What I really wanted to do was this multi-tier Halloween plan.
Yeah.
Kids would walk up and there are 12 holes in this box, and you can't see what's inside any one of them. You just have to blind grab into each hole until you find something. So there might be something in there like peeled grapes.
Yeah.
And that's what a fistful of eyeballs. Because if you can make your brain fill in those gaps, and I feel like that's the hallmark of every childhood horror thing that I can ever remember. The witch in the woods, the house that's haunted because nobody's ever there, weird noises come out of it. There are aspects of deprivation there.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, how can I build this Halloween box, but somehow have it be sanitized? Because this year, that's going to be a big deal. Like where every little kid hands, they go in the box, they come back out. Now they've made something filthy inside the box for the next kid.
Yeah.
How can I hose down their hands? This quickly transformed into a couple different ideas. One, how can you stop them from touching anything? And I was talking to you yesterday about the candy catapult. Some sort of a lever that candy falls onto it, and then you stomp on the other end and it goes flying, but I haven't quite worked out what that would be. It does involve some form of monster feet and violence to the monster.
If I could be like, that closed head injury I got was from this really hard Brock's caramel chew that just got me right above the eyebrow when I was 12.
Your Halloween injury, my permanent brain damage from caramel. Another idea I've been playing with, how do you get candy to get vomited out of a monster's head? And maybe in the process, a monster sneezes on your hands with hand sanitizer just for extra good measure.
What if the candy and the hand sanitizer was all mixed in together?
I have totally thought of that.
Oh, like a goop.
So it vomited out hand sanitizer and candy.
Almost as like a vomit.
Yeah, it fucks up the candy.
You gotta really work for that candy. They're just like, oh, ew, ew.
And then they gotta put it in their bag with all the other candy.
There's like no practicality for it. So it's also a scare for parents. The parent sees it happening up on the porch and like, where are we going to put this hand of goop? And then it's a scare for them.
I feel like this could backfire on me and I just end up with a pile full of goo-covered candy on the sidewalk the next day. But I can't remember gross Halloween.
Yeah.
Where there's goo involved or something like that. But I feel like it should be in bounds.
That's true.
I think it's the haunted house thing of no touching. As scary as a haunted house is, you have to sign a waiver if they're actually going to touch you.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what we could do? Haunted aquarium. There's a pile of candy in the bottom of an aquarium full of hand sanitizer. And you have to reach in there and get that.
I think about the movie Piranha. And I think if you could make little mechanical piranha fish and you could have the scene, you put in like a chunk of meat or something, you have all these little things go at it, and then there's meat chunks, and then you have to put your hand in, and there's maybe, I don't know, a Charleston chew at the bottom.
If you plan 2 years ahead, I think that could be a good idea.
You gotta make the candy grow, too. You're gonna really do an uphill fight for something terrible.
Yeah, it's like wax lips, elephant peanut, anything that you would not want to get.
Yeah, the box of raisins.
What are those? Are they Red Hots? Like it's a baked bean candy?
There's baked beans and there's Red Hot.
Okay, so it's not the same thing. Is it just called a baked bean?
I think it is, yeah.
That stuff's made here, you know that?
No, wait, are you kidding?
They're at the Ferrero Pan Company.
I just thought about Willy Wonka and how unsettling that film is. There's odd moments and behavior, and you know that there's a secret there, and then there's that tunnel scene with odd singing. Maybe we could have somebody singing a weird song and something unsettling. Yeah.
It was only unsettling for you because you were a bad kid and you knew you would have been hurt.
If you're trying to deliver candy minus the touching, what if you created some sort of alien abduction experience?
If only I knew somebody with a commercial drone license. You could dress the drone up like a spaceship and then have a light bulb on the bottom of that beams down the candy as it drops on top of kids' heads.
Yeah. The tractor light. If you could do something. Well, I don't know. I guess with spacecraft, there's generally not some sort of uptake of motors and engines. I'll take that back if we're going to be true to life.
Maybe there's some static electricity, like a general eerie feeling.
Oh.
The anti-gravity that most UFOs use makes no noise.
That would be tricky then with the drone. Maybe you had an invisible wire track that you ran them along from tree to tree.
Oh.
But then you'd have to hang out in a tree all night. And the variability unpredictability of weather on Halloween is a real problem.
It is. Like, you never know quite what to expect. It could be super hot. And then if you've got some scene where you're under all this equipment, you're up a shit's creek.
Or it could go the other way. There have been recent Halloweens where it's hailing and raining, so elaborate plans go out the window with those, too.
It's almost like a wedding. It's like you're just like planning for a terror. It's like a serial killer. I thought we were going to really scare some people tonight. I am so sorry about the good weather. I thought we were going to have a thunderstorm tonight.
It's kind of funny if you did plan for bad weather. What would that afford you? You know, horrible rainstorm, snow.
You need to always have some sort of a contingency plan.
Oh, so you build a ramshackle shack. People are coming out of the rain into this area.
Yeah.
And then from that area, you have all of the control because you can just put a big ass tarp over it and somebody can be knocking on windows and shaking stuff.
And you could build a tunnel over the sidewalk. You could have it. You know how mazes basically blind you for what your next path is? You could just have a series of half sidewalk with walls that force you to weave down the sidewalk, and then you can introduce, because if it were all dark and sensory deprived in there, then all of a sudden you can do whatever you want. The weather's not a problem.
Now you're talking about building an actual structure. If you went with tarps and flooded lights, you always go in a haunted house, it's dark. It's that idea of an alien abduction. I keep going back to E.T., that's scary people, shadows and suits, but it's like bright white out there and you're exposed. You're in this plastic tarp space, but you don't know what's outside and you don't know who or what is looking at you. Oh my God. And then just the great mechanical eyeball comes down and like smashes into the side of the plastic tarp and freaks you out. I don't know. Is that idea of being exposed versus what's around the corner can also be terrifying. You said magnetic fields.
You can't electrocute children.
This is not a Tough Mudder race. No hanging electrified wire.
No, you always have to rein me in. Maybe they do it in movies and stuff. It's like a low frequency sound we can't hear, but it's something where it unsettles us.
I think it's called low frequency sound. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I think that's what it's called.
What is it about a low-frequency sound that's so unsettling? Is it that you can't put your finger on what it is?
No, it's something that you can't hear as humans.
Oh.
You can physically sense it, but you don't necessarily perceive it as a sound.
They use it in horror films and stuff. They just added it as like a layer under stuff. Somehow they found that people were getting uncomfortable.
There's military applications for it. Wasn't the Cuban embassy, a whole bunch of people got sick and they were talking about that was just low frequency sound, or maybe it was ultra high frequency. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it was some type of sound wave that was making people ill.
Doesn't surprise me.
Playing with sensory or tricks of the mind.
Oh, yeah.
The Museum of Surgical Science were doing these things where they had somebody come in around the time of Halloween and they were talking about illusions and tricks of the mind. What if you could somehow play with those ideas and create an experience?
What about all right, the 1920s, the 1930s, when seances and that kind of stuff, they were doing all of those types of optical illusions. Like they were making people see ghosts and it was just some type of reflection of a projection, and they would attach the table leg to their leg and shake it. Like, what about just those really lo-fi types of ways of messing with people's minds?
Yeah.
Tara, I'd be curious to hear like this idea of how scares happen today. You know, I grew up with that straddling the analog and the digital. So sometimes I'm more scared about things that I feel I can touch, things that feel real versus some CGI thing. So this idea of the tangible, the tactile.
Have I ever told you about VR haunted houses?
No.
This is the other direction. So I had this project at work that I was playing around with 3D cameras, and I ended up stumbling across these articles about haunted houses and how they were really at the forefront of using VR for haunted houses. They would put people into a room that was 15 or 20 feet by 15 or 20 feet, and they'd be wearing this entire rig, but the room and the programming of the rig was set up in such a way that whenever you walked forward, it would tilt the view 15 degrees. That way, they were able to create a track, and you were walking in a circle the whole time. So your brain plays this huge role in tricking you into physically doing things.
Yes.
They'd have scenes where a part of the floor floor that you'd be standing on would drop 4 inches, and that combined with what you were seeing gave the impression of endless falling. Even though you're still standing firm on the ground, your brain now thinks that you're in the throes of that well drop that you wake up in the beginning part of sleep, sure that you're falling down the well.
The first time I was in VR and I like in a jetpack, and I didn't realize that you could shoot up, and then if you let the key go, you'd just drop, and my stomach just dropped.
Yeah.
Was that the Oculus in No Man's Sky?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were sitting down and I still had to catch you from falling out of the chair.
Yeah, your body reacts to it.
It does, yeah.
It's freaking wild. I love that idea of like a haunted house.
That's unrealistic for Halloween, but it does point to the brain is playing a massive role in interpreting whatever signals, whether that's tactile touch or the witch in the forest that you've never physically seen in your life, but you're sure is there. There's a lot to be done with those kinds of elements to be able to just terrify the hell out of your Halloween guests.
Perception, magicians and stuff, where it's tricks and these things that you could do lo-fi.
In Disneyland, I think it's inside the Haunted Mansion, there is this thing called the extending room. And part of actually getting into the mansion is you wait in line and then a whole group of people are put into a small space. Pretty scary already.
Yeah.
The doors close and then the ceiling gets taller. So people are standing there and they see paintings on the wall start to extend, and you can see what was once a portrait of just a head is now like a whole body.
Ooh.
What's actually happening, it is an elevator going down, but it's happening slow enough and smooth enough that as the top extends, you're more paying attention to that than feeling yourself go down.
Oh,
and it's an elevator that actually goes down under the ground so that you can go out the same door you came in without even feeling like you moved. And then it's underground so that you can go underneath some train tracks or something.
Maybe new technology or things are being created or built because there's a need to do something unusual.
Well, in the mix with the old technology too, VR, yeah, that's totally new. But just reshaping a room, or at least reshaping the vision of a room so somebody thinks that they walked farther than they did, that's old, man.
Yeah.
Because that's just those forced perspective things where, you know, you can look down a hallway and it looks like that hallway is super long, but really you can just walk up to it and it's just a tiny little door in the wall.
We actually do this stuff in retirement homes where you have Alzheimer's patients.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, not the terrorizing part, but the one...
Is this an expose on Dateline? Tell me more about the country's senior citizens.
No, but I mean, it's the psychology behind all of this. The tricks, whether it's physical tricks or VR tricks or whatever we're talking about, it's really about how do you fake it in someone's mind. Part of this is about breaking expectations. As soon as someone's surprised because they don't see something coming, there's a gap there. If you'd be able to fill that expectation with fear.
Once the scare happens, then expectations are done. Oh, it's over. And you're saying you want to play with the second scare.
Yeah.
So it's like the second location, the second scare. Well, no, because I mean, you let your guard down, you think it's over, and then I don't know what that second scare would be, but
it's like in a movie when somebody's walking into a room and you can hear the music get louder and scarier, and then the cat runs across the floor. Oh, that wasn't such a big deal. And then it gets quiet, and then the person turns around and they get stabbed in the fucking eye.
Yeah. You never see that stab coming.
Well, not in the eye, no.
Not at that moment. This is a bit of a spoiler with Castle Rock. The ice cream scoop, it's like you're going along and things seem fine. All of a sudden, I always love those moments where you're like, ow! It just comes out of nowhere. It's a calm scene. Maybe play with that. You don't do anything to your house to make it look scary. Maybe it's a house where it looks like happy jack-o'-lantern, a smiling witch. It looks all normal. This is just Grandma Sue or something lives here. It's like a country classic house. And then something comes out of the porch or something that they're on. Something like a hand comes up and grabs the ankle. You know, something that's like, what the hell? Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All right, wait. The whole thing, super wholesome, just like you described. Kids come up and you come to the door in like a really nice costume. It's a Disney character, something totally innocuous.
Yeah.
hi, oh my God, you guys look great. Here's some candy. And then they turn around, they get one step away from the door, and a dead body falls right in front of them. And it's not even on a rope. Like, it just falls and hits the ground with a thud.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the turn around. Here, honey, let me just go get you a cup of tea. And then their shoulder blade starts twitching. And then all of a sudden you can tell that something's wrong and their voice gets deeper, but they don't turn around quite yet. It's more of a performance piece.
You got to let them think the transaction has finished.
The transaction. I know. I've had this thought before. So our yard's full of prairie plants that are half dead, by the time Halloween hits. They're kind of tall. What if you had somebody dressed up like a pile full of leaves? And as those kids are on their way out the door, a pile of leaves gets up and roars.
Maybe this is not the best for lawn care, but digging a shallow grate, like something where you're inside and there's a breathing mat and you're covered with dirt and you can push your hands out of the earth on occasion and just clutch and grab.
Or what if it's just a speaker sitting out there, and the first time people come up, it doesn't go off. But when they're leaving, it just says socialism.
Exactly. And that's what I was getting at. Little kids, it's easy to terrify them with nothing. With adults, it's weird stuff that makes them afraid. Socialized healthcare. I feel like it'd be better, though. You've got to know your audience. In the city, socialized healthcare isn't terrifying. You'd have a CPD officer pop out of the woods.
Oh, my God. A realistic haunted house.
I feel like that is scary and a little too real.
But it's like all 80s realisms, like the razor blades and the candy, scares and warnings from when you were a child. Like, it's all weird stuff.
Do you know none of those were ever real? Like the razor blade and the candy thing, that never happened.
My mom was obsessed with it, and then I would see her eating the unsafe candy. Wait a second.
I heard that there was at least one instance of poison in children's candy, but the poison did not come from the neighborhood. It was the parent themselves that poisoned their children.
Wow.
And then it got into an urban myth.
At first, the whole idea was, they must have gotten poison candy somewhere.
That's terrifying.
We've seen weird things like that happen in the world, not related to Halloween at all. Do you guys remember the Tylenol thing in the 80s, where before they had a foil lid on medication, it was because somebody put arsenic into a bunch of bottles of Tylenol. The adult terror.
Adult terror.
Oh, I have a body ache, and now I'm gonna die.
We got serial killers around here, too. John Wayne Gacy.
That's true.
And then Dahmer. He was...
Wisconsin?
Was it Milwaukee?
He was.
Milwaukee's really not that far.
No.
I used to work with a guy whose neighbors with Gacy. Yeah, and he was the nicest guy, had the best barbecues.
Oh, I bet he did.
He did the clown thing for children's parties.
Yeah, he really knows his way around some meats. The best barbecues.
Oh, thank God he buried everybody and wasn't a Sarah.
It always comes back to clone genocide and cannibalism. It's always, I don't know.
It's all fun and games until you eat your friends. Has anybody ever been to a Halloween store that actually sold things that were terrifying for decorating your yard or terrifying your neighbors or anything like that? I've seen scary costumes, but all the swag you can buy, it's cheesy.
The best stuff is the constructed stuff.
Yeah.
It is a lot of focus on costume. I don't feel like there are any of those Halloween mega stores.
They're all horrible.
Yeah,
it's like Halloween USA. They hope stores go out of business so that they can place themselves in there for a month and a half.
I remember I went to some horror movie conventions and the trade show area was just wild. You could get custom made prosthetics fit for your face, for your costume. And the things that you would see there were wild. And it was because of this is another level.
So there's Frankenmuth, Michigan.
Yeah.
Tara, have you heard of Frankenmuth?
They have some massive Christmas store, right?
It is Christmastown, USA. They have massive Christmas stores. They go all out. So there is at least one Christmas, like it's high quality stuff all over the place. Why isn't there a Halloween Town, USA?
Isn't there? There has to be.
Where is it? It's not Hell, Michigan. I know that.
Yeah, there's that.
I was disappointed as I drove through Hell, Michigan.
I was disappointed when I drove through Climax. That's how everything is, isn't it?
Mismatched expectations.
Every emotion you can have, there's a town in Michigan that exemplifies it.
I want to go back to Frankenmuth for a minute, though. Isn't an entire town full of year-round Christmas its own sort of terrifying prospect? I mean, you walk in July, and they have to have air conditioning on so that creepy Santa can continue staring you down from the corner.
There's not just one creepy Santa. They are everywhere, and they're always dancing.
Imagine if they did night tours.
Oh.
The lights are low, and there's a real Santa somewhere in there, but he looks like the total boozed-up Christmas Santa.
We're going to have you back because I want to, at the holiday season, talk about the tradition of telling ghost stories at the close of the solstice and the close of the year.
Okay, so Halloween is at the equinox. Christmas is at the solstice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Easter.
That's also a creepy time. That's when we have all of the weird Swedish cults.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to kill a woman or something.
Why isn't there a holiday for the summer solstice?
Oh, so like in the June season.
Yeah, there's no holiday there.
That's the backyard barbecue where you're cooking up a couple of humans on a spit.
Yeah.
You offered that part of cannibalism.
I did.
I joked about it earlier. You completely offered that one up.
I just think that behind every closed door, there's a dad that knows his way around a barbecue, and he's got that grill master apron,
Just because you know how to cook the meat doesn't mean you know how to carve the meat.
That's mom's
That's
job.
a butcher. So dad cooks human flesh.
Yeah.
But mom is the one.
She's like
actually
marinating it. She's carving, and the kids could get involved in some way, right?
I guess the kids would be the one that murder.
They could lure him back.
Then who actually kills this person?
Grandpa? Like in our old days, we used to kill our people ourselves. To bring them back here, kids. Let me slice them throats. And then she's paging through a Betty Crocker. Oh, this spicy orange citrus marinade. We're going to try an island dish, honey. And then Gramps like, come on, kid. And it's like, ah! And then there's like killing in the background. Leave it to Gramps.
You mentioned an island. I did hear that human flesh tastes like pork.
Couple of chops for dinner.
Do you guys remember this company that existed 14 years ago, and they sold human flesh alternatives?
What?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
They made a product called Fufu. It was this pasty-looking flesh.
Yeah.
It had to have that fleshy exterior side, like a fish fillet.
Like that chicken skin. Ugh.
God, you could have some little hair sticking out of there. Oh, my God. You could make that real gross.
You went straight for the hair.
Oh, the hair is the authentic piece.
At least shave the human before you cut it up.
I'm going to do a skin-on chicken or something like that. It's like it has a tattoo.
It says mom.
It's like a Tweety bird, a tattoo.
The skin is only on former dinosaurs. You don't get a pork chop that has skin on it.
No, you don't.
You don't get a cheeseburger that still has some skin in there.
That's true.
No, but you get chicken
Yeah,
sometimes.
but chicken, former dinosaurs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like turkeys
Yeah.
and quails
Turkey.
and pigeons and
Fish.
Were fish dinosaurs?
They were hanging out.
Sea creatures technically are where the dinosaurs came from, so I guess in a way.
Oh, they're like pre-dinosaur?
Yeah, they all grew in the primordial ooze of the oceans, and then they crawled out
Well, yeah,
like
but-
alligators.
Then technically that's all of us.
I know, exactly. So we should all be eating meat with skin on it.
I just go back to meat and bodies and preservation, and I think Boggs.
Is that it? That's what you have to offer? Hey guys, wait. I got this great idea. Hold on. Shut up, everybody. Boggs. All right, yep. What do you think?
Sorry, I thought that would land in a very different way. I felt like I was bringing it all together. Because, it's in the Boggs. It's like all these stories about banshees and bones and things are preserved. And there's something about the quality of a bog. It preserves things like that.
Sure.
You find things that are in there that still have like hair and skeletons. So what if something came floating to the surface somewhere in a bog and you happen to be just a sweet Irish girl walking down the way?
I feel like a bog is the exact opposite of where life thrives because it's the complete absence of oxygen. That's why they're so preserved for so long. Just completely sealed in like amber.
And that's why Sarah loves them.
It's so quiet in the mud.
If you created a bog in your yard and then you had to walk along a path and you didn't know if you were going to fall in and like disappear, can't you do that with your lawn?
You could totally do that.
Yeah, just turn your whole front lawn into a wetland.
Yeah.
Well, and the great thing about it is it's already fucking flood and shit. Just turn it into an ice skating rink for the winter.
Oh my God.
You got 2 holiday seasons done. Bing, bang, boom.
Oh, but you think about the ground. What about tremors, worms underground? Or it doesn't have to just be a dead body that you're eating.
You
and
could
like
just
it could be
bury somebody alive in a costume and have them pop out every once in a while if they survive being buried alive.
I totally thought about doing that when we were killing off all the parkway plants last year because it was all dirt. So I thought, we can just
You were
dig a
thinking
hole.
about burying somebody alive?
Yeah, neat.
I think we've all thought about suffocating our spouse in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways. Yeah.
This is maybe not the haunted house anymore, but when you were renovating your house and you were itching to put something in the walls, closing back up. Somebody finds this and you're trying to put 2 and 2 together. Like, what does this all mean? What if you took it a step further and there was a movie about the person wanting to do this and it became such an obsessive idea and nothing at Halloween USA would do? It was all just cheesy skeletons and it wasn't enough. And they're like, I need to actually kill somebody to make this good enough of a prank to put in my wall for somebody in the future. And it's the mental breakdown of somebody.
Wow.
Alone in their house, dealing with contractors
Yeah.
and losing their mind. Then one of the contractors goes missing.
Hey, I'm going to hit your ass with a fast fact.
What is it?
There actually was a haunted house that had one of those scary dead body mummy looking things in the corner.
Yeah.
Turns out it actually was a dead body.
Wow.
What?
Yeah. I'll send you all the link when I find it, but it actually did happen. I think they were moving it maybe and it broke and they saw that there was an actual bone inside and then they traced it back and they found out that, it was a legit dead body that they had sitting in the corner in their haunted house.
For how long?
For years.
That they bought somewhere as like a prop and they didn't realize it was a real thing or that it was like somebody, like the workers that come in.
Or like a genius.
The transient work or whatever. And it's like, somebody killed somebody in a town somewhere and like put it in the props for the traveling haunted house till next year. Like, what is the story here? I don't know.
You're not actually asking me because it's a fast fact, you dummy.
Oh,
I don't know. I know like that this thing happened, but I don't have all the details.
Well, that's juicy.
I don't know his name.
You could make a really great fictional story about a killer who is a genius and they only kill at Halloween and they go to haunted houses and they put the dead bodies in there while they're going through. Ooh. Because how many people would actually notice a dead body in a haunted house? And by then, all the evidence.
That was an episode of Psych.
So smart.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then maybe, how you visit. Like, I don't know why I'm saying it's like, how you do this when you kill.
I know. We can never use this idea now.
It's okay. I edit out a lot of the stuff that she says like that, where it alludes to her actually doing stuff.
We want to keep all of those ideas fresh.
It's just a homicidal tendency.
I love that idea of going back to visit the places where you killed people and they find out who it is because they're like, Jim, he's our biggest fan. Every year he comes and he does our haunted house 25 times a year. And it's because he's trying to go see Kelly in the back of a scene that he killed 20 years ago. And so every year he goes to see it.
Have you guys ever thought about how you can use Halloween pranks as a part of your death, like after death wishes? For a long time, talked about a seed in my skull, and then I wanted to grow into a big, scary tree with my face at the end of the block. But I also have an idea about burying my body somewhere in the backyard and then creating a treasure map that is totally screwed up and doesn't say there's a dead body. The treasure lies here, and then you dig up your skeleton in the yard. No? Nobody else?
I know, I'm with you. I feel like you're at nature center and let's go play in the Terra. And everybody runs and dusts your bones and there's a tree root shooting out of your eyeball.
Uh-huh.
I would be climbing all over you.
I think it just made a whole lot more sense why you guys are friends.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, my skull on the top of a tree?
No, in the trunk of the tree, but that face-like
tricking somebody into unburying your corpse?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Wouldn't that be funny if someone accidentally undug me and then was scared shitless?
final Halloween prank.
Roots invading a body and pushing through flesh. This moment, it's kind of like that stink flower at the botanical gardens where every 20 years it blooms. Well, there's a moment when Tara will bloom.
It's a corpse plant. That's what that's called.
A corpse plant! Yeah, because it's like it smells like a dead body. You think about time-lapse photography, a flower growing, and so you'd come to the backyard and your body is actively pushed up through the earth in an arched back, just like a gorgeous angel, and roots are pushing through like whatever flesh is hanging off your body, and you're exposed, and it just falls off, and there you are, and you're lifted up by the tree roots, and the moon comes down, and then we would pray to you at the winter solstice.
Could we do it for the summer solstice?
When Dad's barbecuing in the backyard.
There's your summer solstice holiday.
Oh, Tara's blossoming. Are you guys ready for some chops? And there she is, just the root hanging out of her eyes.
There you go.
I'd be there for that.
There's only the one body to bloom. What would everybody else do to celebrate? Would they just burn her in effigy?
It doesn't have to be exclusive. Everybody can do this.
What I'm hearing is this is a start of a cult. Everybody can have a Tara. Everybody can have a blossoming in their life. Everybody can take root.
The cult has to come with some self-obsessed messiah complex. So imagine if the summer solstice were, it's like Day of the Dead, but a little more literal, like somebody's corpse gets upended by a bunch of plants.
That's terrifying.
In towns across the world, there's just dead bodies sprouting out of the ground. All stinky and gross.
Yeah. Yep. It's like the reaping.
The rotting.
We got to find out so we can brand it properly.
Celebrate the brand.
Yeah. So maybe we're not going to have this show about a marketing agency that's trying to brand haunted house experience or scary experiences.
We're not digging up any dead bodies.
Not today. We're more private about
we're never going to do it.
Never.
Never.
I'll never go to a haunted house in a Christmas shop. Christmas is already a little too terrifying, but I mean, it's a good idea. Somebody should do it.
Thank you all for joining us today. As you can see, we do pride ourselves on quality while still exceeding ourselves in quantity. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to rate and review NGDT and help spread the good word of our hard work. There's also many ways to learn more about our products on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Not Do Dat Podcast. Get your brains ready for next week when we'll step off the factory floor and hit the books with Terror Technical Institute.